Back when I used to spend my days in the classroom, the #1 educational game that my kids loved was Tumblin Dice, and this is the perfect game to teach kids how to multiply. Let's talk about it and show you one of my favorite house rules. Now, before we get into it, it's not a huge box, and it's also very easy to assemble and disassemble, but in the game, it's really quite simple. You're going to play over 3 rounds, and kids are going to take turns having their unique colored dice, and then you're just going to try and slide them down. Now, where the dice lands is how many points you will get, so 2 times that number. But the catch is every single player is going to take all their dice and do them one by one, trying to get them as far as they can, and you can of course try to knock other people's dice down. But once it's time to keep track of your score, this is where learning math comes into play. So let's take the blue score. So 0 times 7, well, anything times 0 is a 0. So 0 there, and then 2 times 3, so they do the math, it's 6, so blue would have 6 points. You take the dice off and you move on to the next one. So we have 4 times 3, 12, and then 3 times 1 plus 6, 7, so 21, so we'd have 33. But you see, it's really simple multiplication. You do that over the course of 3 rounds. But during the 3rd round, we have a special house rule we always play with. Let me tell you about it. So if you play with young kids, you know one of the biggest hard parts about playing with young kids is getting so frustrated because they're so incredibly terrible at winning and losing. Well, what I started to do was I'd realize some kids would just be absolutely getting smushed, punched in the face. Not literally, but, you know, they'd be losing really bad. And by the end, they'd be demoralized. They'd be doing the math in their head, be like, oh, I can't even catch up unless I do. So we implemented the D8 of glory. I think that's what it's called. And the house rule was super simple. On the last round, if you were in last place, you get your normal dice, but you also get a D8 die that you get to roll down, which could potentially get you up to 32 points, and you always roll that one last. But what we'd also do is add an extra special house rule, because if you were down by more than 32 points, then you got the D10 of justice, which, you know, you could get up to 40 points. And if you were down round 3 by more than 40 points, then you could get the D12. Which, you know, and then you can probably guess if you're good with math, if you were down by more than 48 points, then you could get the D20. And there were kids that literally, I know, would throw the entire game just to get this D20 at the end, which is fun as well. But end of the day, this is a really fun house rule to keep the kids engaged more, even if they feel like they're going to lose, because you always have a shot no matter what. And it helps them do higher math because, you know, if they get a 17 times 3, all of a sudden we're looking at a pretty complex problem, but they really want to figure out the answer to because, you know, they might win a game. So I cannot recommend Tumblin Dice enough as one of my favorite educational games of all time. I used to use in my classroom. I'll post a link down below. And if you have an amazing multiplication game, drop it in the comments because I'd love to check it out. I'm sure everybody else who's watching this video would love to as well.